Hey, people. All right. So, Piers Morgan, we all know he's kind of changed his tune just a little bit, just a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. And, fine. I'm okay with it. Look, what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. All right. Can we just rip this Band-Aid off? I don't like seeing kids getting blown up. Or either that, hearing stories about how some kids just give up the will to live. You know, on a personal note, last month I was honored with the privilege of being a god uncle. Okay. And you know what? I thought I lost my heart. I forgot what it really was to, have a little baby in your arm or have someone say, "Hey, you're an uncle." I fell in love. It would kill me if something happened. And I think of all those kids. What if that was your son or daughter? Grandson or granddaughter? Niece or nephew? Okay? And the media now is realizing what's happening in Gaza. Now, they knew. So, was Piers Morgan fine? It took you more than a year. I mean, where's Bassem Youssef at? I mean, Bassem Youssef, I'm pretty sure, has his own fair share of words. But it's fine. It's fine now. But Dave Smith, I know. Dave Smith, I have nothing but respect for him, right? And Piers Morgan had a little bit back and forth with an attorney from Israel, okay? And Israeli lawyer, Natasha Harsdorf, about what's happening in Gaza. So viewer discretion should be advised, because if this will easily trigger you, I know it will upset some of you, especially with some of her responses. But the world might be saying it's enough. I'm holding back my tears just a little bit. But the world just might be saying enough. And I think it's enough. Dude Dissidents has been saying enough. Jimmy Dore's been saying enough. RBN's been saying it's enough. Enough. And now the world, hopefully, is saying enough. Because I remember, before I played the video, look, I know this is my show and I have an opinion, but, I just remember those comic books and movies and TV shows, where there was something bad happening, the good guys stepped up and stopped it. Now, we can't bring back the dead. The dead stay dead. But we can try and save what remains. So, enough killing, enough destruction. No, if there is a ceasefire, will the pain go away? It won't. It won't. But you know what? Enough. No more. No more. No more. And that's how I feel. Because I just don't like seeing kids get hurt anymore. I don't like seeing families being destroyed anymore. And you know what? I just don't like seeing parents cry over a small coffin. It did not have to be this way. So let's stop it.
That you've been, I think, very, as you said before, I don't want to put you on either side of this debate, because I think actually people who are hardcore on either side of this debate probably see you as someone on the other side.
Yeah, they all hate me. The extremists all hate me. That's fine.
So, no,
yeah.
Not all. I didn't mean to say they all hate you. A lot of us like you.
They actually do. The ones who are to the extremities on both sides, they all hate me. So that's fine.
But I think one of the things that any honest observer has noticed since the very beginning of this conflict is that the Israelis, including the highest levels of the Israeli government, they just speak out of both sides of their mouth the whole time. And so it's like, which argument are we even taking on? I mean, they'll sit here and say from the very beginning that the goal is just to get the hostages back and to defeat Hamas, while their finance minister is openly talking about how the goal is to cleanse the entire strip.
He's not even hiding it. He says it.
Yes.
He literally says it in front of the world.
Yes. And we see them now putting this into plans into action to do this. So how are we to judge this? They'll sit here and say that they've taken painstaking efforts to make sure that they limit the number of civilians that are killed, while also saying they have no idea how many civilians are being killed, and they don't count the number because that's not who they're targeting. You'll sit here and say we're only targeting Hamas, or that we're only intentionally targeting Hamas, and at the same time think about the argument they're even making as Smotrich is out bragging about how not one grain of wheat will get into Gaza for this 3-month period that you're referring to. But they'll say, hey, look, they have stockpiles of aid that had gone in there previously. It's like, okay, Piers, so then logically, can't we deduce you're not starving Hamas? They've got plenty of food. Then who is the additional blockade supposed to impact? It's the civilian population. And so, listen, I'm sorry, this is just anybody with just common sense and a basic understanding of logic could tell you that none of these defenses make any sense. And instead, I think it's reasonable for us to say that we're going to judge the Israeli government, and I like that you were precise about that. We're talking about the government of a foreign country, not people who believe in Judaism across the world, and not even necessarily the people of that country. But when I'm judging the Israeli government, I'm sorry, I'm going to judge them based off what their actions are, and I'm going to judge them based off what their motives are when they admit the truth.
Yeah.
And so you could sit here and say, oh, we're doing everything we can to prevent the children the number of children dying, and then brag about the ratio, but at the same time tell me you don't even know the number of children who are dying. The bottom line here, and this is why global opinion is turning against Israel, is the level of human suffering that is being inflicted by Israel on the people of Gaza is evil. It is pure freaking evil, and it doesn't need to be done this way. And if you think you can get away with this with a decentralized media and with smartphones and with 4K high def images and with the ability through social media today for people to communicate in a non-controlled environment, good freaking luck, man. This is going to end up so bad for everyone. It's already ended up so bad for the poor people of Gaza. But I just can't. I'm truly stunned, Piers, and I'm sure you are too. I am stunned by the lack of rational self-preservation on the part of the Israelis. Like, read the room here. You are turning the entire world against you. And I do not understand why they would choose to do this.
So I wanted to play that in its full entirety because, you know, it's important for us to observe what's happening. All right. I mean, let's face it, Gaza's a moonscape. I mean, it being rebuilt, if there's a ceasefire, I have no idea what construction is going to look like, but you know, we did play, I think every one of us in independent media did play that infamous AI video of Trump Gaza, where it's like the Riviera of the Middle East. Yeah, it'll be a Riviera, right? A Riviera of blood, you know, waterways dripping red, the foundations on the bones of the old and the young alike. Yeah, Riviera. Now, for decades, there's been conflict in the Middle East. For decades, there was an opportunity for peace. For decades. This all could have been stopped. But right now, the starvation of men, women, and children, I can't abide by it. I can't abide by somebody starving. I can't abide by somebody suffering. I can't turn a blind eye to that. And I understand there's a lot of complexities to this war. I get it. But again, before October 7th, Netanyahu's government was falling apart. He was suffering from protests. People didn't like his domestic agenda. And, you know, as I think, again, I call it the blurring effect. Remember, Hard Lens Media coined a term. No matter what happens to Hard Lens Media, remember this. It's called the blurring effect. People will forget about stories or articles that came out where the New York Times posted an article about how Israeli intelligence was given a heads up about what would happen or what was going to potentially happen around October 7th. It all didn't have to happen. All did not have to happen. Did not have to happen. I want to play another segment here. Just want to pull this up here about public opinion.
any honest observer has noticed since the very beginning of this conflict is that the Israelis, including the highest levels of the Israeli government, they just speak out of both sides of their mouth the whole time. And so it's like, which argument are we even taking on? I mean, they'll sit here and say from the very beginning that the goal is just to get the hostages back and to defeat Hamas, while their finance minister is openly talking about how the goal is to cleanse the entire strip.
He's not even
and of course,
hiding
now
it.
we see,
He says
yes,
it.
yes.
He
And now-
literally
and now
says
we
it
actually
in
see
front
them-
of the world.
Yes, and we see them.
And here's the thing. If maybe this is just me as a South Sider, because like again, I want to point out two people here. Like Bush was warned about 9/11, or war always turns a bad politician they hate into a hero. Look at W. Because here's the thing. As growing up on the South Side of Chicago, if I'm told, hey, somebody's looking for you and they want to fight you, you either try to avoid it as much as you can or try and set up a spot where like, okay, let's do this. But if I'm given a heads up about something, fight it. Get ready to kind of, don't just let it happen. Don't just act like you're fine and you got a head, you could just walk around, cloud nine, that kind of bull. No, baby, that's not how it works. 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 But the thing is, you would think government officials, if they're given a heads up, like, hey, we're going to be under attack. You just don't sit back and, all right. No, in the TV shows and the movies, they're like, we got to run. Like in that TV show 24. Remember that? Boop, 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 boop. I know. I shouldn't be doing all these noises, but come on. Let's be clear here. You're given a heads up. You act on it. Unless they want it to happen. Oh, what? No government would ever put its people in jeopardy. No government would purposely have an agenda to cause a war. There's no insidious, not once throughout the entire human history, from ancient antiquity till now, would there be a king or emperor or president or prime minister or chancellor that would say, you know what? Let's have ourselves a little war and set it up and get the people angry. That's never happened, right?
Now putting this into plans into action to do this. So how are we to judge this? They'll sit here and say that they've taken painstaking efforts to make sure that they limit the number of civilians that are killed, while also saying they have no idea how many civilians are being killed, and they don't count the number because that's not who they're targeting. You'll sit here and say we're only targeting Hamas, or that we're only intentionally targeting Hamas, and at the same time think about the argument they're even making as Smotrich is out bragging about how not one grain of wheat will get into Gaza for this 3-month period that you're referring to. But they'll say, hey, look, they have stockpiles of aid that had gone in there previously. It's like, okay, Piers, so then logically, can't we deduce you're not starving Hamas? They've got plenty of food. Then who is the additional blockade supposed to impact? It's the civilian population. And so, listen, I'm sorry, this is just anybody with just common sense and a basic understanding of logic could tell you that none of these defenses make any sense. And instead, I think it's reasonable for us to say that we're going to judge the Israeli government, and I like that you were precise about that. We're talking about the government of a foreign country, not people who believe in Judaism across the world, and not even necessarily the people of that country. But when I'm judging the Israeli government, I'm sorry, I'm going to judge them based off what their actions are, and I'm going to judge them based off what their motives are when they admit the truth.
Yeah.
And so you could sit here and say, oh, we're doing everything we can to prevent the children the number of children dying, and then brag about the ratio, but at the same time tell me you don't even know the number of children who are dying. The bottom line here, and this is why global opinion is turning against Israel, is the level of human suffering that is being inflicted by Israel on the people of Gaza is evil. It is pure freaking evil, and it doesn't need to be done this way. And if you think you can get away with this with a decentralized media and with smartphones and with 4K high def images and with the ability through social media today for people to communicate in a non-controlled environment, good freaking luck, man. This is going to end up so bad for everyone. It's already ended up so bad for the poor people of Gaza. But I just can't. I'm truly stunned, Piers, and I'm sure you are too. I am stunned by the lack of rational self-preservation on the part of the Israelis. Like, read the room here. You are turning the entire world against you. And I do not understand why they would choose to do this.
Yeah, I mean, look, Natasha, I was editor of the Daily Mirror 20 years ago when we launched a long campaign to stop this country, the UK, going to war in Iraq, which I thought was an illegal invasion of a sovereign country. And it may be very unpopular with the then Labour government, led by Tony Blair, because we were the Labour-supporting newspaper. My point being, my argument then was not with the people of the United Kingdom. My argument was with the government of the United Kingdom making a decision which I felt was illegal and wrong, probably constituted war crimes, and it turned out to be a complete unmitigated disaster that led to 20 more years of mayhem in the Middle East, including the rise of ISIS and all the hell that they brought with them. So this, just to be clear again, I do not have an argument with Jewish people or with Israelis. I totally understand why after October the 7th, so many people in Israel felt so vulnerable, felt so angry, felt so distressed, so heartbroken by the devastating loss. 250 odd people kidnapped and taken hostage, including babies and Holocaust survivors. Over 1,200 people murdered, 7,000 wounded by 3,000 terrorists breaking over a border to attack anyone they got their hands on. I don't need reminding of what happened that day. That is why I defended Israel's right to defend itself so staunchly. But I cannot defend what is happening now. What is happening?
Do you bloody well condemn Hamas? 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 Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, look, listen. You want to know who I stand by? I stand by for the families. You know, the average guy. Because you know what? Controversial statement in 3, 2, 1. There's a guy like me somewhere in Russia. There's a guy like me somewhere in Ukraine. There's a guy like me somewhere maybe in North Korea. I know. There's a guy like me somewhere in South Korea, I bet. There's a guy like me somewhere maybe in Gaza, holding on to his kid, or holding onto his mom or grandpa. Or maybe he's with people trying to protect them. I don't know. But I'd say there's a guy like me somewhere in some part of the world, just like me, maybe. There might be some subtle differences here and there, but we're all brothers and sisters. And we have this one planet. I know it sounds a little like a hippie talk, but it's not. We have this one planet. We all live on it. And I could only just think, if we all put aside our differences and the hate and the vitriol, oh, the good we can do. The great things we can do. I may not live to see that better future, but I hope my words will make an impact on it. And Pierce, I'm glad you changed your tune, but for what? 19 months, almost a year and a half, give or take. You were constantly saying, hey, this war, all this other stuff. I just remember just things being different. And now you changed your tune, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with it. If there are people who want to be more critical, fine, go ahead. That's right. But you know what? It's all right. Fine. I mean, the dead are still dead, and maybe you should have changed your tune way a little bit early on. In fact, everyone should have been saying, stop this war from the very beginning, but we're here now. And boy, did I pause at the wrong time, because look at that resting face that she has. Ay, God almighty, that was a horrible pause. I just realized that.
Now is militarily inexplicable to most people I've spoken to in the military. I have a lot in my family. Nobody understands what Israel's goal is here, other than flattening Gaza and kicking off. Well, hang on. As Smodrich has said, it is to take over and clear out Gaza of all the Palestinians. That is genocide, isn't it? Unless, you're a lawyer. No, you tell me.
Israel's war aims have been clear from the outset, which is the destruction of Hamas.
They haven't done that.
And the return of the hostages. Well, because the war's not over yet.
You haven't done either of those things. All you're doing is killing more and more civilians, and you've been starving them.
Well, but who's you? Forgive me. I'm here as a lawyer.
The Israeli government, and you're here to defend it, right?
No, I'm here to defend the rule of law and the weaponization of international law, which has been consistent throughout this process. The propaganda that we're discussing right.
You know what? Everyone remembers Robot Chicken, right? I think it's still around. You know, I remember season 1. They did a segment called "The World's Most One-Sided Fistfights Caught on Film." Well, the world's most horrific genocide caught on film. I mean, come on. You got hospitals and refugee centers being blown up, AIDS centers being blown up. Hey, get some food. Kaboom! Never forget what happened to the World Central Kitchen Aid workers. Remember them? They did the most devastating thing they could do. Follow the appropriate pathway from point A to point B to deliver food and go from point B to point A. But even in their marked vehicles, kaboom.
Right now, which is clearly what has shifted your position and perspective on this.
What do you mean by
is deeply
propaganda?
dangerous. Calling Israel a committer of genocide or saying that it is starving children.
Well, actually, the people alleging that Israel's committing war crimes are 2 former Israeli prime
who
ministers.
have their own political agendas here. Let's
Well, how convenient.
evidence
How
for it.
convenient. The two
Like
former
Ehud
prime
Olmert.
ministers
Will you
of
allow
the
me-
country
Yes.
have said that you are committing, as a government, not you, but the government is committing war crimes, and you dismiss it as just a bit of internal politics.
Well, no, it's a very serious matter that the misinformation that I would like to be able to come on to address is now also being propagated by 2 very sore individuals. Prime Minister Olmert, because he also served a prison sentence and has had his entire proposed peace framework, that of essentially creating a Palestinian state in East Jerusalem and the West Bank, turned upside down by the realization, and he hasn't had, unfortunately, the temerity after the 7th of October to recognize the risk that he would have put Israel to in light of the Hamas takeover.
And when you see, as we
of the
saw,
Gaza
and when you
Strip.
see, Natasha,
I was answering the previous question.
okay,
Piers,
but
and
let me
this
just
isn't-
on the
this isn't
point
productive.
on the point of legality. Actually, it's very productive. On the point of legality, only last week the Israeli government announced new settlements, 22 settlements.
Well, no, can we pause
Well, hang
on
on,
Gaza
hang
first?
on.
Yes.
On the West Bank, 22 settlements,
Yes.
which the international community views as illegal. They announced 22 new settlements. As a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
given your adherence to the point of law, presumably you would condemn that.
Well, this is exactly why we need to be clear about how international law applies and why the notion of these so-called illegal settlements is a misnomer.
don't think they are?
It's not a legal term, it's a political term, and it is part and parcel of a misapplication of international law to the status of the territory. These blood libels, occupation, ethnic cleansing,
Wow, so you
colonialism,
think the settlements are not
apartheid,
illegal?
and genocide are all part and parcel of the propaganda.
Hey, Pierce. Listen, buddy. I'm glad you changed your tune. Bassem Youssef, you need to bring him back on the show now. Because boy, I would love to be a live sit-in studio audience member for that conversation. I mean, it's good. Hey, Pierce. Listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not. But if you want to have millions of views on your YouTube channel, get Bassem Youssef back on your show. Because boy, you know, you should be quoting him right now. You did not one, but tic-tac-toe, 3 in a row, 3 interviews with him.
Which I would like to be able to come on to, because all of the evidence goes in completely the opposite direction in terms of Israel's compliance with the laws of armed conflict and its in the amount of steps that Israel takes. Unprecedented in the history of armed conflict, and military
Actually,
commanders
that's just a
will tell
load
you,
of bullshit. I'm sorry, it just is.
which other army
It just
sends
is.
warnings
Which
as
other
to-
war in recent times have you had half the population is under 18 and you killed 20,000 kids in
Those figures
20
are
months?
Hamas figures that you are
Well,
constantly
give me
repeating.
another.
Man, boy, do I remember when those figures were brought up to Pierce. He had a different answer, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. I'm listen. Other channels can be a little bit more aggressive. That's fine. I am okay with this because it's like, okay, you're seeing the media machine realize, hey, you know, that's a lot of dead bodies. That's a lot of hurt people. We might have made an oopsie about all of this because everyone has smartphones and cell phones. You can't hide it. Like, listen, this isn't the 1980s or 90s, baby. Hell, it's not even the early 2000s. No, everyone's got, we're all seeing it. Why do you think they wanted to shut down TikTok? Why do you think all these social media platforms are working fast to do a little bit of censorship? Like I said on the Post-Duopoly show, it's only a matter of time before independent medias might be axed. You know, I think Russell was on to something about maybe, I don't know, the Heat quote, don't don't get attached to something unless and oh, fuck, I screwed it up. Don't be anywhere where you can't leave in 30 seconds. All right, that's the discipline.
Give me an example of where this morality has been played out elsewhere.
Well, I was explaining earlier that the Hamas figures are inflated, that there are internal
How
inconsistencies.
convenient for you. You don't know what the figures are, so how do you know?
That because there have been independent
How
studies.
do you know
by
how many
statisticians.
figures are inflated or otherwise? You don't know how many have been
Because
killed.
we know Hamas lies. It is an internationally prescribed terrorist
Well,
organization.
some might
And
think
the
you're
fact-
lying
the
because
fact
you
that-
say on one hand, I don't know how many children have been killed, but on the other hand, and that's a blood libel if you say we've killed any of them, but on the other hand...
That's not
on
what
the-
I said, no.
But on the other hand, you know all about the ratios and you know how humane
Would you like
the
to
Israeli
understand
forces
why?
are being, but you don't know how many they're killing.
Because even on Hamas figures, which we know to be false, which do not make distinctions
You
between
don't know
civilians
they're
and
false.
combatants, we do, because there
How
has
do you
been-
know they're false? You
because-
don't know how many have been killed.
Because Hamas has even itself revised those figures down
Hmm.
and acknowledged that they are false. And the UN is still touting.
So how many
false
children
figures
has
on
Israel
that.
killed?
If we go back to
Well,
the
can you
question,
answer my question?
If you go back to the ratio,
you know my
question-
que- you
no,
know-
but I can tell you the ratio, even on the
what's-
basis of Hamas figures.
You can tell me the ratio without, but how do you know if you don't know how
I
many
can
have
tell you the
died?
ratio even on the basis of the false Hamas
So you've no
figures.
idea how many have been killed, but you can tell me the ratio.
I can tell you the ratio.
You're,
on
you're
the
a
basis-
smart lawyer.
on
Do you
the-
not understand how ridiculous that
Are you
sounds?
listening to
If we
my
were in a
answer?
courtroom now,
I can
you
tell
would
you-
be demolished
No.
by a fellow lawyer. They would say, "What are you talking
Well,
about?"
Piers, this is not how courtroom etiquette is conducted, I'm afraid. I would be permitted
Actually, some
to
of my
finish.
favourite lawyers conduct them exactly like this.
I would be permitted.
It is what it is, baby.
To finish a sentence, the reason we can say that the ratio before the ceasefire was 1-to-1 or 1.15-to-1 is on the basis even of Hamas
Well,
figures.
1-to-1 or
despite
5-to-1? Which one was it?
1-to-1 to 1.5-to-1. At different points in that period, those were the two separate estimates.
Oh wow, beautiful. But now hold on, just a little bit more, All right, you can check out the full video link here, but there's more to this.
Murder, shouted "Free Palestine," and this is for Gaza.
You mentioned something about 48,000
Two
babies.
days after that full story went
Yeah,
around the
it
world.
was a full story because the idiot that came out with it should have known better. I didn't promote that in any way at all, other than to say.
But you
he
are
was an
promoting
idiot.
false allegations to
So here's the thing: Natasha accused Piers of propagating lies about Israel. Now, wait. Look, first of all, I remember last year. Hey, you remember last year? Hell, I even remember October of 2023 when all this went down. I remember something completely different. I mean, and again, people are changing their tunes. That's okay for people to change their tunes. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with it. And you know what? Hold on. Global says, "Get sarcasm, bypassing the censors. Give it time. Hey, listen, it's only a matter of time before one day we all go bye-bye. I don't know. When we get a knock at the door from the political police. Here come the political police. But for the moment, like, look, this lady doesn't know what she's talking about, in my opinion. Because Piers was going bad for Israel for quite some time. That's what I remember. If I'm wrong or if I'm crazy, type 1 for Kit. You're wrong. This is your end. Prepare to die now. Or type 2, no, Kit. I remember something different too. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. I see the strange shapes in people too. You're not going crazy, buddy. We're all in the same boat together because I remember last year too. I wonder how many 2s will show up in the chat. I hope there's a lot of 2s because I'm wondering now, maybe I am going crazy. Maybe it's finally happened, folks.
of starvation and targeting
No,
civilians.
I'm promoting the fact that Israel's government launched a 3-month blockade, which has led
without
to
the context
people
of
starving.
25,000 tons of
All right.
trucks of
Let me
aid
bring
having
Dave.
been provided before that.
Dave.
Facts without
all right.
context are misleading.
All right, Dave, we're a bunch of deluded clowns who are being
Right.
misled. Israel's government is telling the whole truth here. Everyone else is lying or being taken in by lies.
Yeah, it's just like, look, the
And we're
logical
putting
contradictions here.
Jews in danger by promoting these
well,
lies.
You know,
You're a
well,
Jewish guy.
yes, I
Hey, you're a Jewish guy. That's what the I don't know. I don't think that's safe to. Yeah, maybe it could be safe. I know a couple people who are Jewish too. I know a couple Jewish people. That's almost equivalent. Like some of my best friends are black. Oh my God, folks! It's the fall of the Roman Empire with memes. This timeline went to crap when Aurelian got assassinated. Things would be different if Aurelian lived. And that's not an opinion, it's a fact. Okay? If Aurelian survived, things would be different, my lovelies.
I am, and maybe I'll respond to that. Well, first of all, I just say that even the idea, like as you hear these arguments, Piers, where they'll say like, well, we know these numbers that the Gaza Health Ministry puts out are lies because we know Hamas lies. And look, the proof of that is that they revised their numbers down at one point. But doesn't that just kind of lead to the question, Piers? Then, like, why would they revise their numbers down if they're just lying? Why? Yeah, right. Why wouldn't they just stick with the original numbers that they had?
In fact, the buzzword of the debate.
It's what always happens with the pro-Israel people is like they use what is a point on my side as a point on their side.
And by the way, I wouldn't trust Hamas as far as I could bloody throw them, right? They're a bunch of despicable death cult murderers, right?
There we go. Do you bloody well condemn Hamas? His Coca-Cola classic line. I got to turn that into a t-shirt.
Just to be crystal clear, I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. And yet historically, their figures through this health authority in this conflict going back decades have turned out to be reasonably accurate. I know that because Israel has accepted them over the years.
And Piers, as you know, because I've been coming on your show for a long time now, I've always said the same thing too. I also don't really trust the Gaza Health Ministry. I'm just making the point that them revising the numbers down would be a point of evidence that they're being honest, not a point of evidence that you can't trust them. But look, I will just say this, okay? And Piers, again, because I've been coming on your show, I've done a lot of these debates, over the last year and a half or so. I would never, like, if you remember, there was this example of the guy in Florida who is being charged with attempted murder right now because he shot two people who he thought were Palestinians. Turned out they weren't. He was wrong. But I would never use that as an example in one of these debates and say, aha, pro-Israel person, you're responsible for that.
Right.
I'm a free market libertarian, free market capitalist guy. There was a Bernie Sanders fan who shot up a congressional baseball game several years back. I would never use that in an argument and say, you're responsible for that, because it's the cheapest, lamest form of argument. You are not responsible if you're telling the truth as you see it for some crazy person committing a horrific act of violence. By the way, we're talking about ongoing innocent people being killed for over 20 months at this point now. So like that's what the whole conversation is about. But the idea that any of us are responsible. Look, here's the bottom line, Piers. I understand Natasha wants to sit here and say, the reason you've changed your mind is because you've fallen for the propaganda. You've fallen for the lies. The reason why everyone is so outraged is because they're falling for these propaganda. The truth is that the reason why Piers and so many people around the world are turning on what the Israeli government is doing is because it's just so freaking horrible. Because we're seeing images every day of.
I'm going to rewind that. We are living in very interesting times. And yet I'm reminded by all those shows or those episodes from The Outer Limits or The Twilight Zone, and yes, even Black Mirror too. The power of technology has revealed, the internet has revealed the good and the evil within us as a species, every single one of us. The good and the evil. It's brought us closer than ever before, but it's also divided us more than ever before. And we are witnessing the compassionate side of humanity. When someone's in trouble, the people help. And God, it's so beautiful to see. But then we also see what we've been doing to each other since the dawn of time. Man's inhumanity to man. And the images of what's happening in Gaza. It's nothing new. We've been doing this to each other for years. It's just the brutality of it and the fact it's accessible at our fingertips in a matter of a millisecond. Not a second, not a minute, but a millisecond. It'll come on your feed, and you will see it. A father holding his dead son. A mother weeping over her daughter. Children alone, seeing their whole family lied out before us. A little girl in a car because her dead relatives around her calling for the ambulance to save her, asking for help as the first responders would get there. And they're dead too. Maybe it might be too late to save those that are gone. It is. It's not maybe, it is. But it's not too late to stop this and realize time is running out for all of us if we don't put the effort in for a better future. I'm okay if I don't see the fruits of that labor. I'm okay with it. But if at least we can lay down the foundations for it, that's the best thing ever. So at least when we're looked back upon, people can say, okay, they cleaned up the mess. I don't like seeing this war. I don't. And obviously this won't be the last war because we're professionals. Human beings, we're professionals at doing this. We are. We're really good at what we do to each other. And that says a lot about us. It's like it's almost ingrained in our bodies, in our mind. But maybe this could be the turning point of saying, hey, that's me in that video holding somebody. That could be me. My God, that could be me. What if that was me? And the thing is, after the show, maybe when you're done watching this video, you'll realize that is you. That's you. That's you. That is you. Because that's your brother and sister.
Of children suffering through an ungodly fate. We all sit there and think, my God, if those were our kids. It's a pure reaction to witnessing evil. And you got to sit here and spin the fact that this is all propaganda or it's all lies. I mean, look, I admire you being a lawyer and trying to defend your client. I guess that's what lawyers got to do no matter how guilty your client is. Pierce, if I'm ever charged with murder, get this lady to represent me. So that's who I want on my team. But the bottom line is that two former Israeli prime ministers are not falling for propaganda.
And you know what,
it's
Dave?
Just that
you know
at
what?
this point,
one of them,
they can't deny it.
Right, and one of them, Ehud Olmert, he said to me that he thinks Netanyahu, A, should have resigned by now, but B, will be in The Hague one day being held accountable for these war crimes. And I mean, I guess my question for you, Natasha, you're a lawyer. Would you be prepared to defend him if Netanyahu appeared at The Hague?
We're talking about the International Criminal Court.
Would you be
which
prepared
has-
to defend him?
No,
Or not?
well, let me be clear about the context because this is important. We're talking about the International Criminal Court, which has no jurisdiction in this matter because Israel is not a party to the ICC and Palestine is not a state. It clearly made significant errors on prior determinations of jurisdiction on the basis of an accession document, supposedly by the Palestinian Authority, which was never circulated. That was one of the primary planks of its decision in 2021, which has fallen away. It is proceeded on this basis in contravention of its own rules, that of complementarity, and on an entirely false basis. So my organisation, UK Lawyers for Israel, has put out a review of Karim Khan's application for warrants, which demonstrated that every phrase of every sentence of that document was false. In that context, we're not seeing an international criminal court anymore. We're seeing a political body which is seeking to rehabilitate itself by going after the leaders of the world's Jewish state because of its abysmal
Is there anyone who
reputation.
criticises the Israeli government that you don't think is doing so for political reasons or because they're being deluded by
Oh my
lies?
goodness, yes.
In other words, is anybody actually acting, do you think, with any integrity
Well, within
when they
Israel.
criticise the Israeli government?
Within
Because you
Israel.
make it sound like everyone's either stupid, deluded, or politically motivated.
Within Israel, there is the most
First of all, I gotta acknowledge somebody here. Jamie, listen, buddy, I love you, dude, but don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. All right? I'm being serious. I love you, but don't you ever do that.
vibrant political debate and criticism that you will see anywhere. What I'm calling out are the lies and the falsehoods and the blood libels that are being propagated. And those
I was
that are
told by the
interested-
ambassador to UK it was a blood libel for me to suggest that Israel had killed children in this
No,
war.
I don't believe that was the case.
There
I think it
was.
was to do with targeting children.
No, no.
And there is a difference.
Right.
Because we are hearing that Israel is targeting children, and that couldn't be further from
Well,
the fact,
last week,
because
9 out of 10 children in one home
Well,
where 2 doctors
you know-
reside were killed in an airstrike.
Well,
was that? What
isn't
was
it
that?
remarkable?
Well, what was that?
That has been based only on the basis of hearsay.
You don't
and
believe that
secondhand
story?
Information. I want these stories.
Wait a minute. You don't believe
Yes.
that those children were killed?
I have seen conflicting accounts, and I want that story to be properly investigated
Wow.
before the international media.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Huh. Blown apart, burnt alive, crushed in the rubble. I think they're still alive. Really? I know this is a longer segment than usual, and when I clip this, hey, give it a like. But Jesus Christ, lady, holy cow! Woo! And I've seen my fair share of evil people, scumbag people. While I'll never probably meet this lady, face to face, but man, she is now engraved in my mind. It's like, yeah, if I see her, man, it's like you lose your energy. It's sort of y'all remember Captain Planet and the Planeteers, and they did that episode where they time traveled to World War II, and Captain Planet was face to face with first name Adolf, and Captain Planet was getting weak of energy. He's like, oh. He's so evil. I'm losing power. Like, that's when I see her, when I see that face, it's like, I'm losing power.
Runs with it. I have
You
a
think
question.
those 2 parents, one of whom I think operated on one of the children,
I have a question.
you think that those 2 doctors, the parents, they just made it up?
Why are
that
those
9 of
children
their
there?
10 children had been blown to pieces
Yes.
by an Israeli airstrike?
If this is true,
You don't believe it?
well, why on earth was artificially generated imagery used to promote this story when it first
I
happened?
got to say,
We've seen
Natasha,
time
I
and
think
time
what you've
again-
just said about that
Piers
family
Morgan, we've seen
is despicable.
We've seen time
I'm
and time
sorry,
again.
Yeah, is
it's
that a- is that a
despicable.
blood
What is
libel?
truly
As somebody, you talk
despicable-
about blood libel, like Dave said, you talk about blood libel, you talk about lies,
All I said,
you talk about
Piers,
promoting
was that there were
propaganda,
conflicting
and here you sit
accounts.
here as a lawyer and you say that you do not believe those 9 children were
I
killed.
didn't say that. You're putting
You
words
did?
in my mouth. I
Do you
said-
believe it or not?
I said that there were conflicting
Do you
accounts
believe it?
and it needs to be
Do you
investigated.
believe it?
I thought you would be the
The parents
first
said 9
person
of their
that
10
wants-
children were killed.
They
Do you
haven't-
believe them
they
or not?
haven't- they
Or
haven't
did those
said
2
that directly.
doctors make it up?
They haven't said that directly as far as I have seen. I have seen second-hand
Hmm.
accounts and hearsay, but it's important to ask, why are these civilians still there? Why is it that
Actually, no, it's important to ask whether you believe that family
No.
have lost 9 of their 10 children.
I want
Actually.
to know why the international
You don't, do
community...
you? You don't. And this goes to the point that I would say about Israel
Why are
generally
these
now in this war now.
Palestinian civilians-
Israel says they don't believe anything.
Coming out of Hamas,
every
indeed.
story that comes out
Yep.
about the deaths of civilians in Gaza,
Because there is a
someone
track
will
record
pop
of
up
lies.
representing.
And we're gonna stop here. All right. Look, Gaza's a moonscape. Homes gone, apartments gone, businesses gone, skyscrapers gone, hospitals gone, schools gone, universities gone, grocery markets gone, community centers gone, refugee centers gone. Well, gee, why are they gone? Airstrikes, drone strikes, helicopter strikes, artillery strikes, tank strikes, military operations, mortar fire, all that jazz. So, there's a controversial statement here, but there was probably people in those buildings or fleeing from those areas. And so people are dead. There's a video on YouTube. It's got like millions of views, and of course it's an anime meme, but like the character saying people die when they are killed. Well, yeah, when you bomb these areas, people do die, and guess what? People die when they are killed. All right, if that's a bridge too far, what is it then? Really, what is it then? So shout out to Piers Morgan for changing his tune, and Dave Smith, hey, one of the dauntless few. You're doing great work. Look, I want everyone to live a peaceful, good life. That's everyone, okay? The civilians, the people. I want these wars to end. Maybe one day. I don't see it happening, but maybe peace in the Middle East. Peace for the people of Gaza and the West Bank. Peace for the people of Israel. Because you know what? I don't like it when people are dying. I want everyone to stop dying. I want peace in Lebanon. I want peace in Syria. I want peace with Iran. I want peace with Yemen. I want peace between Russia and Ukraine. I want peace. I mean, let's try it, world. Let's try it one day when we're not having the bull. Let's have a big old community barbecue. Smoke some good weed, drink some good whiskey, and live our lives. We could live a beautiful life. But it's got to stop. We got to call this what this is. Genocide. Now, if we are the people who we say we are, or who we think we are, we can stop this.